So I realized it's actually still pretty early in the morning, and a little too early to check in on Hamlet, so he's probably sleeping right now. I need to check on him at about noon, and I guess this will probably be the second episode of this whole thing? Maybe? I was thinking about some things that I should talk about, like, I know I made it sound like I don't have any friends at all. I do, but they're all up in New York where I came from, and then that made me think, oh yeah, I should probably give a little more information about myself for anybody who's not familiar. So, I'm from New York originally. I currently live in Pittsburgh. Grew up in a town called Chittenango. Went to college at Lemoyne in Syracuse, where I got a Bachelor of Arts degree in sociology. And I guess that's the most of my resume. I mean, it has some other stuff, I guess, but it kind of goes back to I don't really know what else is interesting about me. You know, I already told you I like video games. I seem to find myself the most engaged with games that really allow you to choose how to proceed. So I like strategy games. I like games like Dark Souls. I like games like Fallout. I keep trying to get into Skyrim. I keep telling myself that there's so much to this game that I want to get into, because there's so much there, but I don't know. I only get so far, and I've actually, to this day, never beaten it. I've never beaten Skyrim. You know, it's one of those games where I keep making new characters, and I get only so far, but yeah, I've never beaten it. And to be honest, I don't really care to beat it. I don't really take care to go back and beat it. And maybe someday someone can sell me on it, or I could find some other fun way to approach it, but yeah, I just don't have it in me. But, like, I don't know, music that I like, I'm one of those whatever suits the mood kind of guys. That's not good. Whoa. How did you even... There we go. I don't know how that worked, but okay. Like, I don't know. Recently, I've been kind of into electro swing. It's definitely different from anything else I've heard at any other point in my life, and I'm pretty sure it's sort of like the defining music to this point in my life, because we're going to be playing it at the wedding. And I like to listen to it to kind of perk me up. There we go. If I'm looking for some sort of pick-me-up for my day. Where are you? Come on. There we go. Yeah. Ooh, yeah. I'm cheap and I like to use this method of fighting him. Oh. Ooh. Also had me trapped there. Wow, that was weak. Ooh, goodness. Didn't expect him to turn so fast. There we go. I grew up on like classic rock and country for the time of my life where I grew up in a trailer park, which I guess sounds about right for a 90s kid. One of my first cousins, he's not really a cousin anymore because, you know, my uncle's not married to that woman anymore, so I guess that's technically not, he's not really a relative anymore. But back when he was my cousin, he introduced me to rap, and so I got to, you know, see that aspect of music, and I was into that for a while because it was like new and edgy, and my parents didn't want me listening to it because it was like swearing and whatever. Yeah, and then one of my other friends, who actually lived with us for a while, because I guess he had a really bad situation at home, yeah, he lived with us for a few months. He got me into like heavy metal type stuff. There we go. So, I mean, I've seen a whole broad spectrum. Oh, and then I guess, like, people like my grandma and one of my closer friends got me into classical music, some combination of classical music and Elvis and that whole era. And I had a couple of other friends in high school who got me into stuff like Death Cab for Cutie and alternative things like that. So I've been exposed to a lot. And my iPod is currently composed of just a bunch of random stuff. And I'll just sort of hit next on my iPod until, you know, I find a song that fits how I'm feeling at that moment. Or, if I don't know how I'm feeling at a moment, which is actually often, I'll just keep hitting next until I find something that's like, yeah, okay, I guess that's how I'm feeling about now. Whoops. Oh boy. Is the butcher coming? What is he doing? Or she doing? Apparently they're women. There we go. Alright, fine. You want to do this here? I'm gonna have a battle of meat cleavers? You just had to bring your friends. Wow. Well done. Got the first kill on me. Probably should have just parried. Anyways. Oh, now I'm this gross shriveled up thing. I guess other art stuff that I'm interested in. At high school, in my high school, you had to meet some sort of foreign language requirement in addition to, you know, all the other requirements. I managed to dodge around the foreign language requirement with art credits. And so I took a lot of art classes in high school. And that doesn't necessarily mean I was particularly artistic. My parents say that I am, or that I was, but I was only ever really into photography because there was like that distance thing I liked between me and the world. You know, drawing I was kind of good at, sight drawing, you know, just you look at something and you draw it. I wasn't too bad at, I guess you can call it like abstract painting, when I didn't have to paint anything in particular. But I wasn't really artistic. I just ended up doing a lot of art in high school because I had skipped around the foreign language thing. That said, I did take French for 1 year in middle school. It was fun, I guess, but foreign language is one of those things that never really took me. Foreign languages still fascinate me, but it's more for the culture than the language. I guess that's why I got into sociology in college. Because the world interests me. It's just... and its people are fascinating. I just don't like them. I'm really uncomfortable around people. So it's more like I like to observe than to actually participate in the world. And that may sound like the coward's way out, but I've never denied that. I feel like... I guess here's an example. So, at my work, I am constantly credited with being a fast learner. Wowza. Alright, let's keep track of what's going on here. The... okay, are we back on track now? What? There we go. Holy crap. Anyways, man, what was I even talking about? That situation was so insane. Oh yeah, so the world and cultures interest me, and how language relates to that, and history is all very fascinating, but I'm just really terrible at retaining language information. Like, I took Latin in college for 3 semesters. That was really cool, because that was more connected to a culture that doesn't exist anymore. So while other foreign languages in college, like other courses, would have a spoken aspect of it that you were graded on, Latin did not. However, the teacher did, have us pronounce the stuff that we were learning, but he had us pronounce like the original version of it, not the church versions of Latin that's more common now. I say more common, but I guess I mean like that's the only version of it that's currently like practiced. Outside of Latin classrooms. Can I parry you? Oh, good. There we go. Dead yet? Good. I mean, and that was a lot of fun for me, because that was a lot more of just learning about the culture of the people who spoke the language. And of course, there was the historical aspect of how it relates to other languages that currently exist today. And that was very fascinating to me. So, I mean, history's always fascinated me in that regard. I've never really been a big history guy, but I always like the aspect of history that shows you how things relate to one another. I love that.
Thank you. I would have been a supper without you. Been eaten alive. I was trying to think. Thank you. Thank you dearly. I'm Louis.
Cool. Oh wait, did he have other dialogue? I missed it. I forgot. Never mind, okay. But yeah, so sociology. Yeah, when I started college at Lemoyne, well, first of all, I kind of picked Lemoyne because I really didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, and Lemoyne was really close to where I, grew up. It's about a half hour, 40 minutes or so. Jeez. And they sent me a free application, and I was like, you know what, it's a free application, why not? So I applied, and I got in. I consider it luck, but it was really by virtue of my counselor in high school at the time. She was a graduate of Lemoyne as well, and so she was able to write me a letter of recommendation. I was also asked to submit a paper, and the paper I'd submitted was some joint project between English and history. So, I guess that was interesting. And, Yeah, I got in, so I really only ended up in college by virtue of everyone up to that point in my life just told me that was the right thing to do. So that's what I did. And I didn't really figure out, I guess, what I wanted to do for college until I had been there for some time. You know, I started out as a psychology major because I really was interested in how people thought. But then it got into, I guess, I don't remember what in particular turned me off to it, but it got into some stuff that was really, it really kind of took me away from my initial interest in it. So I changed majors to philosophy. That was interesting. Because for me it was more like, well, maybe I'm not interested in the science of the mind, maybe I'm more interested in the art of the mind, which is how I saw philosophy at the time. The art of how people think. But philosophy just kind of ended up turning into, okay, now it's like so far into your college career, you need to start thinking about how you want to make a living, how do you want to apply this, and I saw no future in philosophy. In addition to the fact that it started getting into more just memorization of names and stuff. It was sort of like, so who said what, and how is this important, and to what was it important. Really, actually kind of boring stuff. Like, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of interesting stuff going on in philosophy, but it had just lost me at some point. You know, somewhere between it just being about straight memorization again, and less about, you know, the thing that initially interested me, and needing to choose something that I can make a future out of. And I'm not a terribly creative person, so I didn't see myself making a future out of, you know, philosophy. And then sociology just came to me as less of a, okay, I can make a future out of this thing, and more of a, I feel like I understand this the best, so it should come easily to me, and then that way I can worry more about what I'm going to do with it, and less about actually getting good grades in it. I didn't, you know, I didn't get like flying colors in college, but I did good enough to where I got to get a taste of what I could do with it. And that said, I'm not doing anything with it right now, and I don't actually intend to. Because most of what I kept on hearing about what you can do with a sociology degree was either you get into social work, which almost always translated to dealing with how crappy people are to their kids and how to deal with wards of the state and so forth, or you become a researcher. And the research aspect of it was honestly just kind of more or less what turned me off to psychology. Because with any kind of research, when dealing with people, or I guess animals as well, you get the best results from people not knowing that they're being tested, you know, because if they know that they're being tested, they might skew the results, that kind of stuff. I don't know, the whole idea of trying to be sneaky about the whole thing was really weird to me, and it kind of made me uncomfortable. I mean, of course, then there's the, you can always do testing where people will just submit answers on their own, but you have to kind of break down the fact that, you know, their answers might be skewed. And trying to decode information like that is, I don't know, it just seemed like, if you're going to be studying groups of people and behavior to try and plot out, you know, forecast future things and better change decisions going forward, you want the most accurate information possible. Don't go through so many different channels that it just doesn't make sense. You know, it's because after you've decoded it enough, you have to worry about your own interpretation. You know, like, okay, so how much is their stuff and how much is mine? And trying to take away your own bias, or at least acknowledge it. I guess that's just a part of any research. It's just, it kind of ended up being too much for me. Not that I couldn't understand it, it was just, I guess, why people tend to look down on the social sciences, the quote-unquote soft sciences, I guess is the actual term for it. That people tend to look down on it from the hard science perspective because it tends to work with a lot of just flat interpretation of what it is instead of their instead of like what the instruments are telling you. Because with social sciences, you have to worry about the method of research. I mean, I guess that's an issue in any science. It's just, it was more apparent when I was seeing it, and it just really turned me off to the whole thing. That said, I still love sociology. It's still incredibly fascinating to me, and groups of people and all that stuff, but I ultimately didn't end up doing anything with that degree. The unfortunate thing is, a lot of the job market that I noticed when I was looking for a job when I first came to Pittsburgh seemed to care very little about what your degree was actually in, and more that you had a degree to begin with. And that's really depressing. Because the barrier of entry for even moderate success is kind of entrapment, to be honest. It's really a wall. Because I know a lot of people who had a lot of trouble in college. And looking back on it, college isn't even that complicated. I mean, I guess it depends on what you're doing, but I mean, grad school is where it gets really crazy. Where you start getting into, like, you have to worry about your colleagues trying to screw you over for better data and stuff like that. In regular college, you just have to deal with more social issues than anything else. And the fact that that's still such a barrier, it just makes this really uncomfortable divide. And I think more so in my generation than in the previous generation. Because I feel like a lot of people from the previous generation, like my parents' generation, were more comfortable just going right into the workforce. Where it seems like a lot of kids in my generation were told to do better for themselves, you know, to not just go right into the workforce. Like, I don't know if this is how it is everywhere, but we kind of more or less came from the area where it's like, develop yourself, go to college, improve the world. And the whole, you know, staying in your hometown, raising a family, and working right out of high school was kind of frowned upon. It was weird. And I guess that's kind of what turned me away from it. Not that I regret any of the decisions that I made, because, I mean, I like where I work now. I don't think I couldn't have gotten this job without my degree, but it's definitely helped paint a more positive image for people of me, knowing that I have a degree. And don't get me wrong, I've taken plenty of positive things away from college as well. It's just, I'm just saying, the piece of paper that is my degree hasn't actually done a whole lot for me. And so when I try to envision what an improved version of the current system would look like, I would try and improve the relationship between education and the economy. Because presently, one is at the mercy of the other, and I feel like that shouldn't be the case. You know, one sustains growth, and one helps it improve. These two things should not be mutually exclusive. They should work together at all times. And that's how it is with a lot of things in social systems, but just based on my experience in it, I feel like there's just too much of a divide. Or, well, there's too much of a divide in one area and not enough of a divide in others. One thing that was kind of nice is that Lemoyne is a smaller college. So I feel like a lot of the decisions that it made was more in its own benefit than in, like, anyone else's who's making money from its benefit, so to speak. Like, it wasn't a state college, but it did have to make certain concessions to, I guess, a different kind of state, you could say. Lemoyne used to be a strictly speaking Catholic college, and then it became more public at some point in its history, but it still held on to its Catholic roots. like how in every classroom there's a cross, and one of the buildings is actually designated as the Jesuit building, where the Jesuits on campus live. Oh, I guess it requires some other explanation for anyone who else isn't familiar. Jesuit, spelled Jesuit, is just a, in broad terms, and I mean no offense, just a type of Catholic. And from what I had understood before I joined Lemoyne, the Jesuits were famous for being very good at education. So, coming from Lemoyne had its own prestigious kind of connotations, for anybody who knew about it anyways, which was kind of nice as well. So if I told anybody that I was going to a Jesuit college, they were like, oh, so you're someone who's really making something of themselves. They had that kind of, you know, general positive image of me, which was nice, yeah, for me, I guess. Not to say that anyone was duped, but there were benefits, I'm just saying. Yeah, I definitely grew up a lot in college, for the social end of things. As far as, like, the book end of things, no. Uh-oh. I actually spent all of college as a registered commuter, but I spent every year of it living on campus due to a very generous network of friends. I was able to sleep somewhere every night, and as chaotic as that might sound, it also helped that I worked on campus. I worked in the cafeteria, so I could usually make ends meet, so to speak, for anybody who wanted to provide me with a place to sleep. Whoops. Yeah, that's actually a pretty interesting story. I mean, I don't know what other details I can give, but yeah, I spent all of my college year, all 4 years of my college education as a commuter. Registered commuter, so basically I didn't have to pay for room and board. But I didn't have my license until, like, after college, because I was so terrible at driving and afraid of it. But, yeah, my first year I had two of my friends from high school living together, Mark and Kevin. And it just started with, you know, me getting rides from my mom to college, and then I stayed a weekend. Just stayed the night up in their room with a sleeping bag and everything. And then I was like, you know, I wonder if we can pull this off for longer than a weekend. And then we tried it for like a week, and then eventually they were just happy to have me there, so I just kind of moved in with them. Now, that said, as a commuter, I didn't have access to the building like they did, so I had to get kind of tricky with, you know, either asking them to let me in or waiting for someone else to go in so I could follow in behind them, that kind of stuff. And so yeah, first year was, well, okay, first semester was Mark and Kevin. Then I think the second semester, because Mark had left, was Jim and Kevin, I think. No, it wasn't Jim and Kevin yet. Who was it? It was Mike, this guy Mike. Neither of us had met before, but he was an extremely cool guy. He just came back from some long trip. And, yeah, he was looking for, you know, someone to room with, and Kevin was available. And I was asking him if he'd be totally cool with me just staying with him as well, and he's like, yeah, absolutely. So, that was cool. Then the second year was Jim and Kevin. We were in a different building. third year was... I think Kevin became a commuter at that point. That was third year. Third year I was with Jim again. Yeah, I basically stuck with Jim for the rest of my time at college, but I can't remember who else we were rooming with. Because the fourth year was Kenny, and he was going in to be like a sports caster guy. Yeah, I actually don't want to be here yet. But I can't remember who was third year. Unless Kevin was there again. And I'm just remembering it wrong. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I stuck with Jim. I just kind of bounced around from place to place with him. And I actually met my fiancée in college. Who, you know, our relationship that is inevitably going to culminate in a marriage soon is what I can say is probably the most positive thing I walked out of college with. But, yeah, I met her in college through Kevin, actually. They had a chemistry class together, and he's like, oh yeah, there's this girl in my chemistry class. She, you know, listens to audio versions of these, like, internet meme jokes that we like. And so we just started hanging out with her, and she was with somebody else at the time, and I think I was with somebody else at the time too, or something. What am I doing? You know what I need to do is I need to get to Andre. So let's actually do that. Anyways. Yeah, so through a lot of really weird experiences, I grew up a lot in college. Not weird bad, just kind of weird in general. Learned a lot about myself. Learned a lot of things about myself that were kind of like... I wouldn't have known them without the crazy situation that I found them out about. And the things I didn't like, but things that were important to know so that I could, you know, become a better person by not being like that anymore. So, I definitely got a lot out of it, but I do feel like there is an unfortunate... Whoa. I'm pretty sure that's coming through in the audio of the mic, and I have no idea what that was. It sounded like someone on the floor above me is running a power tool of some kind. I feel like there's an unfortunate concentration in kids in my situation who are going to college where it is more of a social thing than it is, yeah, I want to do something with my life. Wow, yeah, someone's sawing something is the best thing I can figure. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I don't know what is going on. That's definitely coming through. Goodness. Wow. There we go. Okay. Anyways. was I even talking about? Oh yeah, college. Yay. Oh yeah, I didn't actually get to graduate with the people I started college with. I had to do an extra semester because of some credits that I missed. So, yeah, that last year that last semester, I actually had to stay with some new people because, you know, Jim had graduated. And I stayed with, what were their names? Ben and Ryan? Or Brian, I can't remember if it was Ryan or Brian. Both extremely cool guys. I don't remember what Brian was going to do, but I know Ben was looking to actually get into the game industry as well. He was actually looking to go into programming. Lived in a whole different place on campus than I was used to, so security had to be... I had to handle the whole security issue a little differently. Kind of got in trouble on one occasion where I set the fire alarm off by accident when I was cooking. And I was the only one in the building, so I had to like leave because there was a fire alarm, and I couldn't get back in because neither of them were home. So I had to kind of find something to do for whatever amount of time. That was pretty funny. Wow, that was unfortunate. Man, also unfortunate. There we go. Yeah, the last semester was pretty interesting because my fiance wasn't yet my girlfriend at that point. Like, I had already told her that I liked her, and she had already graduated and moved to Pittsburgh, actually, for further schooling. And, whoops. Oh, come on, Perry. There we go. So, you know, there was a physical distance between us at that point. And her brother had actually started to go to Lemoyne. And, yeah, I don't know, the whole social situation completely changed because all the people that I had normally associated my social life with were gone. And so at that point, I was just sort of waiting for the semester to end, and then I would have to face the inevitable problem of, so what am I doing with my life now, you know? And now that I can no longer skirt this whole needing to make something of my education decision, what would I finally do? Oh, I think that semester was also when I did my internship at a domestic violence outreach. That was an interesting experience. Because the place works primarily with women who are trying to get out of domestic violence situations. But it also works with, like, kids, and the part that I worked with was actually the men. And I don't mean men trying to get out of domestic violence situations. I mean men who were actually domestic violence offenders. They had to go to a court-ordered, like, re-education class. I don't remember what it was called. I think it was called Alternatives or something. And yeah, so sitting in a couple of those classes and working on some projects with them was definitely an interesting look at some of the dynamics of people. Because when you're sitting in a room full of people who are court-ordered domestic violence offenders, I think this world forces you to paint a certain picture of what to expect. Whoops. That was not what I wanted to do at all. It's fine, I guess. But to be honest, that room was filled with people who are guys who just kind of looked like normal guys. I mean, a couple of them looked like they were homeless, like they had really dirty, ratty clothes, and they looked really unkempt. But generally speaking, they all look like pretty normal guys. Like, I don't know how to describe normal, but like there was just a whole variety. You know, guys in suits, guys in jackets, guys in t-shirts. It was really everything. So that kind of opened up my eyes to the whole domestic violence thing, but to the dynamic of people in general. Anybody could really be anything, no matter what they wear, I guess you could say.
The way I see it, our faces
Oh,
appear to be
on my last break there, I grabbed some
brimming with hollows.
Pop-Tarts and coffee. So I'll actually just get to that while Solaire's talking. I'll just let him use this last little bit of dialogue.
It pleases me greatly. Well then, take this. We are amidst strange beings in a strange land. The flow of time itself is convoluted, with heroes centuries old phasing in and out. The very fabric wavers, and relations shift and obscure. There's no telling how much longer your world and mine will remain in contact. But use this to summon one another as spirits, cross the gaps between the worlds, and engage in jolly cooperation. Of course, we are not the only ones engaged in this, but I am a warrior of the sun. Spot my summon signature easily by its brilliant aura. If you miss it, you must be blind.
Oh, I guess we're done. Okay. Yeah, my throat's actually starting to hurt from talking so much, because I don't talk very much. One, because I don't like the sound of my voice, but also because I tend to not think I have anything interesting to say. Which is really funny, because I tend to get a lot of attention for things that I say, and at least to people in real life. People tend to actually listen to what I have to say, but only because I don't talk often. So people end up attributing meaning to my words that I really don't feel like is deserved at all. Like, I mean, I've mentioned it before, I'm more of an observer. I'm not really good at advising on anything. So anything I say really kind of should be taken with a grain of salt, but for whatever reason people take things I say more seriously. Maybe I'm just undervaluing my own words, but I don't consider myself an expert in anything, so I just feel like people can go to someone else for more insightful comments.